What's up, CHFFL, and welcome back. Finally, I am home and in the studio, and very happy to be with you because it's going to take my mind off of how nice Korea is and how America is. And a lot happened while I was away. There were spooky, scary Halloween trades. Halloween brought with it 4 or 5 different trades, all in the selling and buying category, as teams decided to make their push for the playoffs very early. I mentioned it in the Discord, but before we go on, two tight ends, fantastic show this week. Grant and Bill. Stan was a great guest and went through all these trades. We're going to talk about them a little bit more right now, but I highly recommend everybody, even if you missed it when it first released, go back and hear their coverage. Looking at these trades, we're going to summarize Grant's. There were two major ones, but we're just going to put them into one here. He sent his first round pick, second, third, fifth, and his top keeper option, Dalton Kincaid, to get Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and Austin Eckler. Digest that. That's a lot that happened. A lot. Grant already started 7-0, dropped the game this week, went to 7-1. Just added two top 10 running backs, arguably top 5. The Kelce, who can't be defined. Kelce is, we talk about every year, and every year it continues to be true. Yes, he's tight end number 1, but he's more than that. He's more like a top wide receiver you're able to start at tight end. And then Mark Andrews, tight end probably 2 or 3, 4 in that top 4 or so tight end, in that right behind Kelce tier. A lot of teams want tight ends, and Grant took away one of their best options. Obviously, though, that's the most we've ever seen anybody sell, or I mean buy, give up for the next season. The most we've seen a draft board decimated in a whole season, nonetheless, in one day. And we'll see, hopefully Grant now is deep enough that he's not going to need to do any more buying, because he's got a 4th round pick left. That's it, unless he's going to trade, unless he's going to spend some of what he just bought to get different positions. This is the shock and awe tactic, which I actually used in the Dynasty League last year, and it ended up working for me. I told my friend who runs the league with me, we bought Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon on the same weekend. They both hit the trade block from teams that were looking to rebuild, and we only really needed one of them to complete our roster and make us the top. But I said we're going to get both, and it sends a message. It sends a message to other teams that says, is it even worth it to try? That's what Grant's trying to do here. He's trying to say, is it worth it for you now to give up your draft board next year to try and compete with this? And it can be very effective. Now, there are still some very good teams in this league. Let's talk about Marty. Came in the favorite this year, but he's only 4-4. He bought from yours truly. He sent his 3rd-round pick, conditionally becomes a 2nd if he can make it to the championship, Justice Hill and Logan Thomas, for Josh Allen, Evan Ingram, and an 11th. The 11th, there was a little miscommunication on what the throw-in pick was going to be. Doesn't really matter. The meat and potatoes of this is he got who I think is the best quarterback in the league. Love Josh Allen. Been keeping him for a few years, and Stan hit on this pretty well as the guest on the podcast, that it's going to hurt now not having him, although might be able to get him with this 3rd-round pick next year. He was going to be kept in the 2nd, and that was probably too high to be keeping a quarterback. But anyway, that's huge for Marty. Puts him very stable at that position. He also, when he originally offered this to me, he had Trevor Lawrence coming. Look, if I'm going to condition my pick, obviously I'm rooting for Marty now to win his conference so I can get that 2nd. Want him to have that depth. And if I'm going to sell, I want to sell. I don't really need the help coming back, although Logan Thomas is nice. He's a better tight end option than most people have. But this is big for Marty. Gives him advantage at quarterback against everybody he plays, and at tight end against most teams he plays. Evan Ingram, I've been shouting from the mountaintops that Evan Ingram is a good value, and I have gotten no interest in him. Could I have gotten more here? This was a discussion on 2 tight ends, and I guess it kind of intrigued me because I didn't think I could have. That's why I jumped on this. And maybe quarterback and tight end are very tricky when it comes to trading for draft picks. And I actually looked when contemplating selling Josh Allen and what I should be asking. I looked back. I just go to the draft board from previous years and I look at what trades were made, and I just scroll through the record in the Discord, and there haven't been big name quarterbacks that have been traded as part of selling at the deadline to give me a comp. I was hoping that, a Jalen Hurts and Mahomes has been on Wes's team for so long, and Allen's been on mine, and we haven't sold them because they've been keeper value, so we don't have a precedent for it. And with quarterbacks and tight ends, and this is what's been happening with Evan Ingram, people stream, and while Grant and Stan were able to appreciate the value of Josh Allen on the podcast, what people do is they get some points one week, or they pick up someone who just scored points, they chase points, and they think, yeah, do I really want to get Josh? I mean, sure, Josh Allen gets 25 points a game, but hey, this guy just got 25 points. Maybe not as much with quarterbacks, but they definitely do it with tight ends. They'll say, sure, Evan Ingram's averaging 12 points a game, but this guy on waivers just got 12 points. Sure, he had 0 every other week, but people always feel like they're overpaying for quarterbacks and tight ends, in my experience. And I just could not get anybody interested in Ingram. So having him as part of the trade definitely pushed me forward on it. Number 2, roster spots. I'm fine trading before the deadline because this clears me up a little bit. I only really need one starting tight end and quarterback to meet my obligations now, because I'm out on this year. Obviously, I'll do my best to keep a competitive team, hopefully win the losers bracket and get the draft pick of my choice. But this gives me flexibility to focus on my keepers and maybe make some more moves. And the third reason I really liked doing this trade is Laporta has been keeping me up at night. I told you, nobody has been interested in Evan Ingram, and the reason is because they all want Sam Laporta. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it. Is Grant hit at it. How do you value? Rookie tight ends don't do this well. How do you value when you can keep him in the 12th next year, and the 10th the year after, and the 8th the year after, and probably the 6th the year after, and maybe if he turns into a Mark Andrews, a 4th the year after? So how do you value? And it's getting low, what I think are low balls when you consider that. And nobody was willing to pivot. None of these teams that needed a tight end, like, well, what about Evan Ingram? He's a guy who doesn't have that insane keeper value. He has decent keeper value, I think, in the 7th. But nobody wanted to hear any of it. And I think by trading Ingram for the draft pick value, that sends the message, okay, Laporta's my guy now. No, you're not getting him. You're not getting him for what you would get a top 5 tight end with no keeper value. And I'm happy to have that off my mind, because what is the value of Sam Laporta has just been keeping me up. Way too long spent on that, but I hope that offers some insight. Happy to answer any additional questions in the chat. Hey to Grant and Stan, who have both joined us. Next, with Parker's trade, he sent a 4th, conditionally a 2. I think he has to make the ship for that, which is a tough condition now that Grant's bought so much. And that's the shock and awe, is whenever you're trading a conditional pick in the Fantasy Heart and Soul Conference now, you have to be considering that Grant is the favorite by a good bit. He sends Marvin Mims, Deontay Johnson. I think 2 tight ends covered this more than I am probably capable of. They really went in depth on potential of Mims, but he received Cooper Kupp was the big piece. And this was good. This was a big splash for Parker. We have the insanity with Grant, but Cooper Kupp Matthew Stafford's having a little bit of an injury. He's week to week, but Cooper Cup is that type of top flex value that you can't really match, and it's going to give Parker an advantage to stay competitive with Grant. I think this was pretty pretty good get for Parker to stand up to the shock and awe trades and say, "Nah, I'm not going away. I'm not going away yet." I like it. Next, there was Swan over in the Attitude Era Conference, which now is just a mess. Um, he sent his 6 and 8 to Bill for a 9-12 DK Metcalf is a sensible ad. Swan, I found, is pretty cautious with he is not going to give up everything next year to go all in. He's someone who likes to make sure he's competing every year and maximize his opportunities. And I can appreciate that strategy. This was a sensible ad for him to bridge him while Jefferson is getting healthy. And hopefully, while the Vikings are getting their quarterback position figured out, if not stronger than it was before. So here's the elephant in the room is where other teams left out in the cold by Grant going out and getting 4 of probably the top 6. I mean, you think Cooper Cup, probably the top 5. Well, Josh Allen, we'll say 4 of the top 6 really options out there to buy. Grant bought in a single day. So Mark in need of running back. Stan needs quarterback and tight end, like Marty did. Wes might be shopping for a tight end. Not quite sure. Marty still needs some wide receiver help. Max is really the one probably left out in the cold here because you got Grant, Wes, and now Parker with Cooper Cup. And Max is coming off a really good week. You got to keep that in mind. But when you look at his roster, he's just solid. He doesn't have that high end flex. Max would really like to be able to go and get a high end flex, but is there anything left? So, just looking at Fantasy Pros rest of season rankings, these are who I see at each position still available. Quarterback, you got Brock Purdy, maybe Justin Fields. I don't know what Bill's position is. He's injured. I don't know how long he's going to be injured. I don't know. People still see keeper value there. Russell Wilson, which is not exciting to trade any amount of value for Russell Wilson. Probably would rather just add Geno Smith from waivers. Running back, David Montgomery is the top ranked rest of season, but with Jahmyr Gibbs popping off past couple weeks, not sure what's going to happen when he comes back from injury. They're on the bye this week. Lonnie can get fully healthy. I'd say before he was injured, he was a top 10 back, probably like in the 8 to 10 range, depending on who you're going to ask. Now, is he closer to top 15 back, or is Gibbs taking a good? There's questions there. Teams will probably want to see him play a week before they come asking me. Then James Cook, who he just had added competition, isn't getting the goal line looks. Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Pierce, these are all guys who have been disappointing. Trevor Hubbard, this is somebody on the rise who's not exciting at all. Brian Robinson, not particularly exciting. So running back, quarterback, both very thin now. And I'm only looking at teams that have announced they're selling. Should at some point Max decide to sell, that could do something. But the Attitude Era, I don't see anybody selling. It's too close outside of Mini and Banis. So really, you have 4 teams that you could potentially buy from. Did I not have another? I must have deleted slide by accident. Wide receivers, there's Chris Godwin, and then some keepers, and I don't think Bill's going to want to trade Olave or he has another Ayuk. I think those are both his keeper options. He's probably not looking to deal them. Calvin Ridley, Banis is probably looking to keep him. So really, you got Godwin and Judy on my team. Deontay Johnson, who Minnie just picked up. And there aren't any high end guys really that you're excited about at wide receiver. At tight end, I think the highest ranked rest of season tight end on a selling team, beside Laporta, who good luck with that, is Logan Thomas, who I now have. So there aren't a lot of options out there for teams still looking to buy. Now, let's see. Grant is asked percent of Max getting in without making a moves. and percent of him getting in with making a move. Well, I'm glad I saw this after I just did those last couple slides. So, you know the situation that there aren't a lot of moves available for Max to make. Right now, he's one game back. Parker's the only one I think he could get in over. Wes's team looks great. Your team's a lock. Let's not kid ourselves. Can he get in over Parker? Let me check real fast. I want to. I'm gonna skip ahead here to the browsers. Let's see who won the first matchup there. Because let's see, Parker beat Max the first time, so Max isn't gonna be able to get the head-to-head against Parker. Where are they in points? Because that's what you're looking at. The best case scenario for Max is to get a tiebreaker with Pa, and Max has more points. So if he beats Parker, and they have the 1-to-1 in the head-to-head, it's still possible there. I'd put chances without a move 30%. Stranger things have happened, and he just scored 150 points, so his team's not bad. There aren't. So if he makes a move, so what move does he make? The highest rest of season ranked flex player available is David Montgomery, and I don't know how much that honestly adds for him. I'd say it maybe boosts him to 35-40%, maybe, but that's probably being generous. I think he's probably around 30, and we'll say 35 if he were to trade me for Monty. Quick note here, when ESPN says he has a 46% chance, I think people get confused because ESPN's stupid, and they don't account for conferences. So they account for the 6 best teams getting in no matter what. That's why you would have 290%. You would say that this percentage, it doesn't make sense, right? There should be 300% total. That's because they just take the top 6 teams. They don't take 3 from each conference. All right, back to our waiver report. Because the trades distracted everybody. There were a couple of moves here we're talking about. Swan paid $9 for Cole Kmet as people continue to chase tight ends. West paid $8 for Rashid Shaheed, which as a dynasty owner, I'd love to see him getting some redraft look. Although that could be a keeper move too. Cleveland's defense, everybody was all over trying to add a stable defense that you can start week to week. Bill paid $6. Other bids came in at 5, 5, 2, and 2, so potentially a nice pickup for him there. That's really it. Bill added a couple of quarterbacks because he doesn't have literally anybody, or didn't after making his trades and Kirk Cousins getting injured. But otherwise, quiet week on the waivers. Everything available is starting to dry up, and I'm sure teams are feeling a lot of pressure if you're still competing. I'm not still competing, so I feel no pressure. Dynasty is the only true format. All right, predictions. I went 2-4 in week 8. That brought me to 28-20 on the season. Last season, after 8 weeks, I was 35-13. This has been a weird year, and I have been bad at projecting things from the get-go, and I don't think that really surprises anybody. It's been a high variance year in the NFL. Just things aren't going the way the experts are shaking out, and to me that's a lot more fun. I wish I was competing while it was happening, but it's turning into some very interesting narratives. Marty, back-to-back team of the weeks in that game of the week, giving Grant his first loss. Minnie, really disappointed. I predicted him to have an upset, and he ended up being the loser of the week. Get that drink in, go Dogs. Max got a big clutch win against Mark, I believe, which probably was not expecting to get, and that keeps him alive, especially with me and Bill selling. That's 2 more pretty easy wins. So Max definitely still alive, just don't like his odds. Let's go over now to our browsers and look at this week's game. We're going to start with mine because it's sad and not interesting anymore. Fantasy. So my Busan paper ballots against Mark. Can you digs it, sucker? And Danny Dimes in at quarterback with Josh Allen now no longer on the team. Definitely scared. I'm definitely scared of him putting up complete busts, and I think I may have a few drinks in my future as this season continues. Running backs, Roshan Johnson and Chuba Hubbard, harder to get excited about that. Chris Godwin, I think is still underrated. Godwin's had his bye, which moves his overall score on the year down, but he's averaging like 13 points a game. He's a really solid wide receiver too, who for whatever reason never gets the credit he should. Nico Collins, slow week last week for that offense after the bye, but I still feel good about him there. There's just nothing to be excited about on my team now, especially with Sam Laporta on bye. I'm just watching my Nico Collins and Roshan and Chuba, seeing who could potentially be the keepers to accompany Laporta. Figure Collins is probably going to be Tank Dell. That's all I'm doing now is loading up on the potential keepers and monitoring their value. Mark on the other side with the veterans Zeke and Hunt filling out his 0 RB strategy, which is still overall working for him. Well, he's not feeling great right now, but he's 6-2. Still got Diggs. Is the Bengals on bye? Where is? No, there's Chase just in the flex there. Missed him. Mark's team still very solid, and this is still a win. He should get Fantasy Pros has, let's see, Mark at a 90, me down at a 77. Isn't this interesting? Not to distract from this game, K-Pop King's at 100 and the Psyducks at 98. Not the kind of gap I would like to see. Young Boat Gung Royalty also 92. Grant, you're doing a good job saying it now. You've got it. Yeah, there's that. Anyway, for this game, I'm taking Mark. I got to get my record up. That's all there is to that. Who did I say? Yeah, game of the week's going to be Swan West. So let's go to one of our other. Oh, let's look at two losers. Spanis, Degeneration Eckler, Bill, Kim Chiago Bears. Bill after selling now. Got Kincaid in at tight end, which last couple of weeks, Kincaid's starting to really come on. Early in the year, when Grant was trying to rip Laporta away from me, I talked about how, yeah, Kincaid could have value like Laporta next year, but he wasn't showing it to me back in week 3, 4. But after two 15-plus point performances in a row, Dawson Knox on IR, Kincaid's looking like a strong start at tight end, quite frankly. Bill could always pivot and sell him, but the keeper value is probably a bit too high to want to do that. Looks like Bryce Young is going to be Bill's spot start at quarterback. Demario Douglas, someone really to keep an eye on. Also someone I have shares of in Dynasty. Over for Thanos. Yeah, what's exciting here? Seriously, chat, help me out. What do you say about this game? Let's look at Fantasy Pros. Degeneration Eckler at 71. Kim Chiago Bears at an 80. Fantasy Pros still likes them a good bit. I'll roll with that. I'll roll with Bill here, based on the numbers, but not an exciting game. Soul Brothers versus 2 sacks and a Ric Flair. Got some little bit of live play here now in one of the Europe games. We have Miami against Kansas City. Jalen Waddle scored 6.1 points. I have him in Dynasty. I got an alert that he was questionable. Hopefully he's still playing there. Max got 8 from the Steelers D on Thursday. Nice score there. But Minnie with 22 from Deontay Johnson. Picked Minnie to get the upset last week, and he let me down. I'm not going to do it this week, but this still is a somewhat interesting game. Harrison Butker, 3 points. Had a tendency, big 19-point game that gave Minnie the win over me, so it could be a boom there. We're in the third quarter, though, so it looks like that's not going to happen. Miami up 21-0. or no, Kansas City up 21-0. Yeah, I was gonna say because I know Mahomes had scored at least one touchdown. So if Waddle's playing, could get some garbage time points there. Right now, Max still projected to win, and this is obviously huge for Max. This is a team you should be beating, and if he drops this one and gets 2 games behind Parker, it starts to really is going to push him come trade deadline if he doesn't win this. He's projected to win right now. Left 16 on the bench with Jalen Warren. Mini. Aaron Jones, I saw some hype, some coach speak hype this week about Jones being let loose or whatnot. Still hasn't been what you want Jones to be. Looking at Evans here, Goddard, Jacobs, Royce Freeman. He do anything last week? Yeah, 10.4. He's one of those committee filling in for Kyron Williams in Los Angeles. I guess that's a decent start. Herbert coming off a good week. I like Max better looking at everything on this team right now. Hopefully Waddle's still in the game. I don't know if I can get confirmation from chat. Let's see. Somebody said something here. Stan, ooh. Anybody watching that game? Tell me if Jalen Waddle's still in. Either way, I'm picking Max here, but closer than you'd like for Max. Max hanging on for dear life. Game one. Yeah, let's look at Grant next because he's made things so not interesting. But what a potentially high scoring matchup here between my two most loyal watchers of the program, Grant and Stan. Grant projected at 1 right now. 24 points. What is this? Grant has a lot of points from the Kansas City game, and 2.7 of them are from his new acquisition, Travis Kelce. 24 are from the Chiefs defense. So Stan obviously hoping Tyreek, as Miami's probably in pass mode, can score a touchdown here and watch the nice swing as the Chiefs D, as their total points goes down. That's giving Grant a big advantage right now. Otherwise, Stan's hit at it. And I mean, running backs favor Stan in this game. Grant having to start Andrews in flex with ETN on the bye, ARSB also on the bye, and the depth is really nice. I remember the year of Mark Andrews for a fifth. I started Andrews in the flex a good bit with Kelce. It's reasonable, but you'd still much rather have a top 10 running back in there. Bill's got to do something in the fourth quarter to get this game turned around for Stan. Stuck with Dak. I guess I didn't realize how bad Stan's quarterback position was when I traded Allen. I never got anything. He never reached out to me. The Dak has been very much a disappointment this year. Hurts a big advantage for Grant. Fantasy Pros has Grant up at 100 and Stan at a 92. This becomes very difficult with the game going on right now and Kelce having such a low score because Chiefs probably not throwing a lot. So unless Miami gets back into it, don't expect Kelce to put many more up unless he's needed to move the chains a couple of times. 2 catches for 7 yards. That's wild. That's wild. So could see a very big swing here. If Tyreek breaks off a big touchdown, suddenly he's adding 12 points and the Chiefs D are dropping 10. 20-point swing. That puts Stan as the favorite all of a sudden on ESPN projections. Stan not missing anybody as big on bye weeks. He's here at full strength. Swift and Taylor still to go. Swift plays Dallas. That's tough, but you don't count the Eagles D out against, or I mean, you don't count the Eagles out against anybody, even based on the defense. Rivalry game there. I expect him to really step it up. Taylor against Carolina should be able to feast. Eckler faces the Jets, so that's a tough running matchup for him to match Swift's there. Oh boy, maybe this one should have been game of the week. Stan at a 92, Grant at 100 on Fantasy Pros. Got some trash talk in the chat, which is kind of why I was delaying. I wanted to see what the guys have to say. Taylor isn't there. Yeah. The Taylor Swift phenomenon, which Nothing makes me believe the NFL is scripted more than all of that because it's so not spontaneous. What was I just? I think it was at the Dogs game yesterday that the announcers suddenly were naming how many Taylor Swift albums have come out since Georgia's winning streak started. And it's like, who? What? That has nothing to do with anything. Who's she paying? Why is she? I like Taylor Swift's early music, but I don't know. Zach Moss gonna feast Grant things. Got the nice Stan Grant trash talk. So who do I go with here? I am gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Stan because Grant losing the first week after trading away his first, second, third, fifth, and Kincaid would just be too funny. And Stan is in a prime position to give him second consecutive loss. So have fun with that, chat. Stan getting the big win. All right, got one more game for the game of the week. Marty, New Age Outlaws versus Parker's Gyeongbokgung Royalty. This is a tough situation for Marty, who just bought, obviously, and he has a lot going against him this week, though. He started, because look at these buys. Christian McCaffrey, buy. Jahmyr Gibbs, buy. Newly acquired Evan Ingram on a buy, so he got 5.8 from Chig and tight end. Parker, though, really struggling. I see when I first looked at this, I thought, oh man, this is one Marty's going to drop just because all those bye weeks. But Tua only 4.5 points, Pacheco only 6.1. Just say the half when it was just saying the third quarter. ESPN sometimes really screws with me. Oh, it's only at the half. Why did I swear I just saw it was the third quarter? I'm really blind. This is gonna be a quick aside. So Stella just got LASIK, the smile LASIK surgery, and she doesn't need glasses anymore. This is wish Marty were here because Marty had encouraged me to get it. I can't do that because of how bad my left eye is. I need not LASIK but the LASEK, which is the more invasive surgery. And even if they do that, they can't get me to real good sight. Out of my left eye is absolutely. I've always known that I had bad vision, even with glasses, but I'm realizing just even with the glasses how bad my vision is. So I guess it's only halftime. I think I said it was the end of the third. It was the end of the second. That gives a lot more time for some swings to happen in that Miami game. Anyway, so Parker not happy with that first half anyway, but obviously not suffering from as many bad buys as Marty is. He still has Mixon, Cup, Allen, Bijan. Parker is a really good team. In a league without Grant, that would be a top team just looking at that roster. Tua, 5 points though. On the other side now, Josh Allen. So this is where Marty could see instant dividends from that trade if Allen playing Cincinnati could become a high scoring game. If Allen can put up 30 plus points and get a 20-point advantage over Tua, that would go really long way towards Marty picking up this nice win while he's in bye week hell. Fantasy Pros has Marty down at 79 this week with all the buys. Parker up at 92. I'm still, because of how bad my pick record is, I'm still going to go with Parker this week, but the way this Kansas City Miami game is going could go either way. Now, game of the week, and looking at Stan Grant, that could have been game of the week too. I have this as the game of the week because we just looked at Marty. So Marty obviously in a bad position with the bye weeks, and when I chose the game of the week, I was almost assuming that was going to be a loss for him, and he's at 4-5 because Swan now is the potential team left out in the Attitude Era with Marty having bought, because Mark's 6-2, Stan's team just looks really good. So then you have Artie and Swan both at 4-4. Swan obviously dealing with all these injuries. He was loser of the week and then almost team of the week, all over the place. And now he faces a very good West team. That's why this game is interesting to me, because really tough one for Swan at a time when he really needs a win to hang around and not become the max of the Attitude Era. So 15 points and a half, though, from Patrick Mahomes for West is a very good start, making up for George Pickens' disappointing game on Thursday. Derrick Henry gave Swan very nice 21 on Thursday, but now Raheem must start no more, only at 0.6 at the half, and obviously behind, probably going to see more passing from Miami. So Mostert could potentially be turning in a very low scoring game here. I wonder if this news was about an injury, because that's really surprising to me that he didn't even just get, only had 3 carries. So I was thinking he's been a very big, I guess not as big of a volume guy as I've been thinking. No catches, 3 carries for 6 yards. That's got to be disappointing for Swan. Let's look at the look though at the rest of what we got here. Kamara been super consistent. AJ Brown, monster. Brees Hall also been really turning it on recently. And you look now, Wes was so excited when he got Brees Hall on draft day, and first few weeks it looked like he was going to eat his words a little bit when you had this stretch of 1 point, 6 points, 10 points. But now 37, 22, 28. Brees is a top guy, and that's why Grant has not guaranteed himself anything yet. Now, tight end still a weakness for Wes, Dalton Schultz, but obviously it still is for Swan as well. Tight end's going to be a weakness for most teams because you can't trust more than 5 tops. Joe Burrow going to match Patrick Mahomes against Bills defense? Could. Bills defense is suffering a lot of injuries. They're not as good as they were last year for sure. ESPN has these projections dead even right now. Chad, who do you like here between Wes and Swan? Fantasy Pros, before any games were played, had Wes at a 98, Swan at a 89. So Wes obviously coming in as the favorite there. Big Thursday game though, favoring Swan. Stan likes Wes. Parker pointing out that is Parker got my whole rant on how games earlier than I thought it was. So obviously could. Wait, I picked Parker to win, right? No, I'm crazy. Yeah, I did. Stan a little biased. He thinks Wes is going to take a game. Obviously, he wants his competition to drop one. Got check here. One more time. Just stare. Game script's going to move away from Mahomes, you would expect. But away from Mostert, too. Difference is going to be Brees Hall. I like Wes. Win the game of the week. There you go. Final prediction. Parker likes Swan. Stan likes Wes. Obviously, both biased guesses there. That's going to do it for us this week, though. Thank you guys for joining in. Drag this one out a little bit because, again, I don't want to think about the very nice country where the big city is clean and safe and all the government agencies are efficient. And I miss Stella. Stella staying over there for a couple more weeks. Anyway, don't start any Thursday players in your flex, or you're a loser who doesn't do his penalty drink when he's supposed to. We'll see you next time.